Welcome to another episode of Two Ales and Hockey Tales with Wally. And today I am so excited to have on a 37-year-old South Korean from Clinton, Ontario, Canada. His hockey journey has taken him to Canada, the USA, Russia, and he is a legend of South Korea. His muck running started young with the St. Mary's Lincolns, the Bosman Ice Dogs, and the Des Moines Buccaneers, earning his ride to Bemidji State University. And he ran such a muck of the NCAA after his sophomore year, he left to sign with the Boston Bruins. After 2 seasons in the Bruins organization, he decided to spread his hockey wings and headed for the toughest team in hockey, Vityaz Chekhov of the KHL. Then 2 years with Neftek Himik, Nizheniks Kamisk. And in 2013-14 was named top goalie in the Nadezhda Cup. But then he headed for South Korea and Anyang and became a living playing legend. And he is a 4-time Asian League champion, a 3-time first team All-Star, a 3-time goalie of the year, a 2-time playoff MVP, confirmed gamer. And for fun with the South Korean national team, has a silver and a bronze, named World Championship All-Star, and the best goalie in the World Championships. Oh, and he's an Olympian. Welcome to my shed, Matt Dalton.
That's quite an intro there. But
you did her, man. I just got the research team hot and checked out a few things, man. You've been winning a lot of shit over there in Asia, eh?
yeah, it's been a good run so far. So yeah, I can't complain.
No kidding. I get into how we know each other. I guess we met this summer in Goderich, Ontario.
Yeah, the good old YMCA there.
Yeah. And I don't really skate often. Like I coach. I don't really move around. I just get bossy and tell people what to do. That day, O'Reilly
You were
was
you were
running it,
you were buzzing out there that day.
wasn't I? 4-on-4
Yeah,
scrimmage at the end. He made me do
yeah,
it. I
yeah. Exactly.
my conditioning wasn't ready for that, but I had to bring my A game.
I remember you in the room after, and
I was
I
cooked.
wasn't sure if you were gonna puke or what. You're
Hey, whatever, man. I was making plays.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
But when I got called, I had my nephew and my son out there, and you guys had a full squad of dudes working on stuff to get better, and we just kind of stayed out of the way, and they got to have their moment out there with you guys. But then, yeah, then it was time to have a real sweat and a little game before the weekend, and well, when you haven't got the heart rate up in like 5 years, that all happened really fast.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's when you get out there with those guys, you're gonna end up with a pretty good sweat on. So
Yeah. And fun fact, folks, just so everybody knows, instant chemistry between me and Snook, right? Ryan O'Reilly.
oh
Instant
yeah,
chemistry, yeah.
I'm surprised the Preds haven't give you a ding.
Right? I mean,
Yeah,
I could just be like a 30-second power play guy, just no back
that's
check,
it,
just
man.
set up the half wall, you know.
Exactly, exactly.
But hey, folks, just so everybody's aware, winning goal was fake slap shot backdoor to O'Reilly, tap in. No big deal. Game over, right? Winning's fun.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
But you can goalie, eh? And I brought your name up after that, and I had one of the Shed fans reach out and say, "Have you ever seen a goalie like this?" And he sent a photo of you. And I don't recall it from that day. You were playing with the curve the other way, like
Yeah,
any instead
yeah,
of outie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's not. You don't see it very often.
Were you doing it that day?
Yeah, yeah.
You do it all the time?
Yeah, all the time. I never started playing goalie till I was a little bit older. So I played out and I shot right-handed, but I
Yeah.
played baseball and I caught with my left hand. Do you know what I'm saying?
You're normal. Yeah, so you're the same as
Right.
me. You shoot right, but you do everything normal. Yeah.
Right. So
I always wondered like what that's like for goalies because I'm a righty and I can't shoot with a goalie stick because they're all left-handed.
exactly. So I tried at a young age to try to learn how to shoot left-handed. And I was kind of at that age where I was kind of too old to kind of learn, and so I just learned to play that way. And I use a pretty big heel curve, and
Hmm.
just the way it lays on the ice, it's almost straight, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But anyways, it's not something I think you're teaching kids, but it was something that I just
Wait, is that not what Cujo did? Curtis
yeah,
Joseph?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was a big fan of him, and I always wondered about being a righty, right? Like even when you're playing
Yeah,
mini hockey, like I'm coaching the under 15
exactly,
boys
man.
now, and they're playing mini hockey. It's like all these righties that play goalie, they got the same situation.
It's exactly how I was, man. Like growing up, especially with Cujo with the Oilers and the Leafs, and for sure I was a huge fan of him, and
Yeah,
so it was kind of, yeah, I just stuck with it. And
my
yeah,
I,
now if I used it the other way, like I've tried using left-handed sticks just for fun and practice and stuff, and I'm ramping them up over my shoulder, right
oh
under the
yeah.
bar and stuff like that.
Well, you can goalie. I always find it interesting with goalies is like teams sign different goalies, but like as soon as you get out there for practice with a guy, like I know what I'm working with as a teammate. I know if you can stop pucks and you can stop pucks. I was
I,
really
I
impressed.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, been able to do it for a while here, so I guess I'm doing something right. So
You are. And it was part of my learning experience. I was at the end of my career when I went out with Snook the first couple times, and it was like my swan song in Cardiff when I was going from NBA. I skated with him those summers a couple times, and I was just I guess I was kind of in shock, kind of in awe of how hard he works in the summer, how
yeah,
detailed he is, how he has a plan for every drill, what he's working on, why he's working on it. And when I was like however much older I am than him, and I'm watching him going, geez, I can learn a lot from this guy. Like, it taught me that I wasn't doing enough in the summer to be better at hockey while I was professional, you know?
yeah. For me,
I
I
took
was
them off. I didn't skate in the summer. I took it right off.
yeah. I was fortunate that like me and Ryan's brother Cal are the same age and grew up together and are really close. And
But he was
so
out there
my
that day mucking it up too. He
yeah,
competes.
oh yeah. So I, my summers were spent with them, living at that YMCA,
Yeah,
and I learned, you know, through those guys, but we all pushed each other, and we were lucky. Our age group, we had a pretty good group of guys in the area, um, that were training there and training together. And you know what it's like when you're competing with guys like that.
makes you
It's
better.
it's pretty. It's right. So, um, looking back on it, and with their dad too, he was a pretty big influence in us at a young age, training us and stuff like that. So,
Is he and
um,
he's not a bit into like the mental side of the game too, isn't he? Like,
oh
yeah,
yeah, he'll get right in there.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I look back on it now, um, and how fortunate we were, to have that. And I look at Ryan and even when we were young like that, he was always out there with us, and we're quite a bit older, but he'd be out there competing with us all the time.
Yeah,
And and it's funny because no matter what it was, like even if it was like running hills or training or playing roller hockey, playing street ball, whatever, he'd be out there all the time, man,
just
and just
keeping up with
battling.
the
And
big boys and battling
that's
and
right.
mucking it up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we were lucky. We had a good crew there, and
So would you have grown up, would you guys have been Huron Perth Lakers then together?
yeah, and then like as we were playing juniors and stuff like that, we kind of really, it didn't really get serious until, you know,
It got serious.
yeah, junior college. It wasn't like nowadays where like
They're
the
serious at
U the U the
13.
U12s are working out and stuff. You know what I'm
I
saying?
I
Like
do. I went to junior B at Elmira, and like I'd never had a team workout,
Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
our team workout would be leave the arena and go run 2 laps of a track and come back to the locker room, and like the old boys weren't going too quick around that track, so then the young guys are like, oh well, we'll just jog too then.
Yeah. So it was a different time, and once we started getting into college, obviously, I'm sure your experience walking into college was probably pretty similar to mine.
Oh yeah.
Growing up in a small area like we do, and it was an eye opener. But
Oh,
anyways,
the same thing for
that
me though. I go to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and our weight room is shared with the football team. And
yeah,
holy moly, there were some monsters in that in that weight room.
exactly. And you're like not even you don't even know how any of these things work, right? And
Yeah.
no, I hear you there, but it was Joey Hisham was a guy that trained with us a lot, and we had a great crew. We'd
I
go.
noticed that Joey Hishon because I've heard his name, and then he got concussions, right? Because I think the first time I went out with them, he was one of the players on the ice, and then I heard about that. But when O'Reilly and I were training, like the first time it was just me and him out there for an hour and a half, which that was cool for me. And I offered my services because I'm trying to get better at coaching for my under 13 squad here. But like it was neat. But then everything we did, he was explaining that like they came from Adam Oates's drills and what they were
Yeah,
working on and why. And I heard that Hishon got right in there with Oates too, and now he's like a skills coach too.
yeah. Like Joey was obviously a great hockey player, and he ran into some injury things and stuff like that, and cut his career short. But super smart guy, knows the game so well, and knows what he's doing. Like teaching stuff that matters,
Yeah,
not stuff that looks cool on Instagram or whatever. Like
exactly. Yes.
he knows what works and what doesn't, and I have a ton of respect for him. Like we used to, there'd be a bunch of us, but we'd go work hard all morning, go have lunch, and then we'd go play golf and at Woodlands in Clinton there every day. That
Yep,
was our
the
day.
hockey guys.
Yeah, and it was a blast, man. And then guys get older, and guys are getting girlfriends or guys are moving living in different spots, and things change a bit, but there was a pretty good run there of 4 or 5 years that we had a pretty good time. So
Yeah, and it's fun in the summer when you have hockey guys around that have similar days than you because for a while there I was living in Elmira and my buddies would go to work all day and I would train by myself in the morning and then
that's tough.
yeah,
Yeah, it's tough doing that stuff. Like,
way more
I don't know
fun with guys that help you get better you can compete with.
right, like you got to have a different personality to be able to like push yourself by yourself and do that at that level. Like I obviously there is people like that, but
Looking
it's
back
not.
on it, I probably wasn't pushing myself hard enough.
Yeah, yeah. I
I was
think
doing the
we.
best I could though.
Yeah, no, for sure. It,
Uh,
it, anyway,
but
yeah,
yeah, so we'll move on past the O'Reilly stuff. It was a cool summer for me helping him out, but what was also cool was the last time I went out with him, I asked him to sign 5 pucks to raise money for some good causes. And then for helping him out, he took the tape off the stick you just used, signed it, and gave it to me. And I thought, huh, that's pretty neat. And that's a stand-up dude that like I never asked for it. I just wanted to help him because I knew what it was like skating by myself on that ice. Because that's how I met him. Was I went to Goderich, skated by myself, and it sucked. And then I saw him with not many guys around nowadays, 7, 8 years later, and I thought, well, I like hockey and I like getting better at coaching and helping see people get better. And his drills are cool. Watching him play hockey is cool. And now my son gets to watch the
yeah,
Predators play
exactly.
and he's getting hat tricks. And it's like, yeah, man, we
Yeah,
know him.
yeah. You know what? It doesn't surprise me about the, giving stuff away. Their whole family. They've always been like that. The whole family, super humble, super generous people.
Yeah.
They would take the shirt off their back for you, and they've always been like that, which is
Or
something
like
that.
the kidney out of them or whatever it was, where
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There
like
you go.
to
Yeah,
save
exactly.
Derek Nesbitt, it was his old man, right? And
Yeah,
O'Reilly's mom
Graham.
gave it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Graham. And that's, obviously I grew up, Nezzy was a big mentor for me kind of growing up, and Graham, running the rink and everything like that. He was so it's such a small community, man.
And it takes
And
everybody to make the puppies good, right? And it takes guys like that to help you along your
for,
way.
for sure. No, for sure. So, no,
So
cool story.
other ways we know each other then was that day we got chit-chatting, and you were getting ready to leave for South Korea. And
Yeah.
like, you're not the only guy I know doing this year, and it's got to be hard. You made the decision it was time in family life to go over there alone and have the family stay set up shop in Canada. Eh? How's that going
Yeah.
for you?
It's got its challenges, just like anything. They're actually flying out here on Saturday, so that'll be nice to kind of
That'd be great.
recharge the batteries for everyone. They're coming out here for 2.5 weeks. So,
Well, and I
um,
saw from your poster pics, like your family means the most to you. Most of your poster pics were your family. And I know how hard it would be. And shout out to Deeds, who's also a local guy around here that is doing the same thing in Hungary, right?
yeah, no, it's sorry about that. That's my speaker going off. But yeah, it's challenging, man. But I
You only got
it's
a
not for
big
it's
enough window, right? And like,
That's right. It's not
eh,
forever,
no,
and you make the most of it. And I try to focus on the positives. Like fortunate to be able to do what I'm doing, and at some point it's going to be over, and I'm going to be able to spend more time at home and all that kind of stuff. And my kids are still fairly young. That it's not a big deal, but
how
it's
how
not.
old are they?
My son's 6 and my daughter's 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
And the
know
6-year-old, they,
that-
they
that's
want to
right.
start going to school with their friends that they're going to be raised with, right?
Exactly, and that's
That's
the
when
big.
we came back was when my son was starting kindergarten, and it was a good
It's
time to be
funny.
back.
It's funny you say that because like the daughter, it's different, right? Like she's young enough that
You could still
probably
be
wouldn't.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but with him, he's playing hockey, playing baseball, and stuff like that with his buddies and from school, and you don't think it's a big deal, but it is to him. In his world, that is a big deal. So
100%. Yeah,
yeah,
your buddies from home, and like I've seen it with my son now. Like he's got his crew in Kincardine, Ripley, Ontario, where he goes to school. Like he's got
yeah,
his lifetime buddies now because he hasn't been moving around while they're in school,
yeah.
right?
No,
Uh,
for sure.
um, anyways, so other ways we know each other. You asked me if I knew Chris Blight. He's been to the shed and we mucked it up all over the minor leagues and in
Yeah,
junior. So he was over in South Korea.
yeah. A couple weeks ago, I ran into him actually. I
Small
haven't
world.
talked. Yeah, man, I hadn't talked to him in years, and he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I'm coming to Seoul. Are you going to be around this time?" And I was, and I said, "Well, let's meet up for a night or something and
Yeah.
have some beer and go out and stuff like that." And it was great to see him, catch up, and talk old stories, and sent him off, had him sent him off for a good night and everything like that. So it was good.
Well, I just saw him this summer in Cardiff, Wales. So that guy gets around because we were in Cardiff
His
for a
wife, he
guy's
was saying,
testimonial. Well, we
his
had
wife is Welsh or something like that. He
yeah,
said,
she's from Cardiff, but then one of like he played there before me, and then he switched teams. I guess I might have taken his job. Sorry, buddy.
"Yeah,
And then anyways, the after 10 years on team, they have a testimonial game where they can bring back teammates, and they brought back us two punks, and we had
oh
a great
wow,
time. Yeah, we had a weekend. Put it together.
yeah, yeah, I don't doubt that. Yeah, that's good.
And other ways we know each other, for speaking of growing up with each other and helping each other get better, my spring AAA, my Waterloo AAA originally before I switched to Guelph, Brock Radunsky.
Oh wow,
And his old man Bob was our coach for spring AAA, and he was a beauty too. I know he's passed, but what a beauty
right.
Bobo was. But yeah, Brock, he's one of the pioneers of the South Korean Asian League, eh? He was there years before you.
Yeah, he awesome dude too. Amazing person. Amazing guy. He was a big reason why I came over. Talking to him and what was going on and stuff like that, and he kind of, I don't want to say he talked me into it, but kind of answered a lot of questions that I had.
Yeah.
And he was a great teammate, man. He was awesome guy to play with, good player. Yeah, just a stand up awesome guy.
And small world for you there was, and it's amazing in the hockey world, the different lefts or right turns you can take that change your life. The summer I was down in Denmark, I had a season, we'd won the championship, and I was trying to figure out where to go next. I called Brock Radunsky about the Asian League because I knew he'd been there.
Really?
I knew he was loving it. And he
Yeah.
pointed me in the direction of the agent that had the most players in the league, which was David Amonte, who now I'm buddies with, and he keeps me in the hockey loop here and has come to the
Yeah, yeah.
shed. But yeah, it came down to me and some other guy for the last spot on a team, and they picked the other guy, and that's how I ended up in Cardiff.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's I don't know that David guy personally, but I've heard of him through the hockey world. I know some of the guys that we've had before have used them and things like that. But yeah, small world, man. And another guy, I don't know if you know this, but I listened to one of your podcasts a while ago. I didn't realize that you played with Jeff Lavecchio.
And that's who the other
And
guy I have written down here. So
yeah, man, Vex.
Western Michigan University, I was a senior, he was a freshman, and yeah, it was interesting. They put him in my hotel room, and he was like teaching me how to live right, and I was the
Yeah,
senior and he was the
exactly.
freshman.
Exactly. No, he's doing cool things, and I'm glad to see. He's doing awesome things right now. He was in Japan too there for a bunch of years and
Yep.
ran into him there and which was pretty cool. So yeah, good guy, good dude.
Last way we know each other is you're from Clinton, Ontario, and every time I hear the name of that town, it just makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. When I came back here, I did play for the Ripley Wolves, and we went on a playoff run the year I played like for real most of the games, and we ended up in the finals against Clinton, and they had a squad. Don't think they were playing voluntarily like the Ripley Wolves. I think they might have got some money for
Yeah,
it, the way they were
they're
recruiting
being
players.
compensated.
I think
Yeah,
they were getting compensated when they had guys that played at Western Michigan with me that like didn't live in the area and had families and would drive there for the weekends to play senior A hockey. So I'm just thinking out loud, but it was an uphill battle. We lost. I almost died in that series too, so that was a tough time.
yeah.
I went
Good
set.
barn though. Nice barn.
Great barn for senior. It was pretty well packed, and then Ripley was bringing busloads of fans, and it was as hockey gets. Tough losing. When you're trying to win one last trophy, and then
Yeah,
going septic and missing the final game and watching your team get put out while you're like, yeah, in a lot of pain in the crowd because you're septic. I had an
yeah. That's
IV in
not.
my arm for 16 days after that series. I went to work with an IV in my arm for 16 days to
That's
play senior
insane.
hockey for free.
That's insane. Yeah,
I don't
I
do it
I
anymore.
actually had I actually had quite a few buddies that played there, just guys that I'd grown up with and stuff
I
like
think
that,
I
and played.
saw that. I wrote a couple of them down because, yeah, their names piss me off now too. That Vic and Doig, they were a
Yeah,
good team.
those two. Yeah, those are two of my. Well, they're both of my wedding, actually, both of them.
Oh,
So
great. I'm sure. And that's what I've noticed about this whole talking in my shed thing is I always hated all the guys on all the other teams, while you're competing and mucking it up. And then now that I'm out here, I realize that they're all just wearing different jerseys and actually they're all a lot like me.
yeah, if they were sitting in your shed right now, you'd love them.
Yeah,
The
maybe. That was a tough one to swallow there. Thought we could handle senior A.
yeah,
But
no,
then you get out there and you'd played every other team and you could like make moves in the neutral zone and they buy what you're selling. And then you go out there against the Clinton Radars and it was like you're skating through the neutral zone on like a pro hockey team and like they all knew where to be and they didn't buy what you're selling. And then you're like, oh,
yeah. This isn't. It's not supposed to be like this.
no.
This is way harder than it's supposed to be.
So, where and what are you doing now?
What am I doing now?
Yeah, well, you're playing in South Korea for Anyang. Is that a town?
Yes, it's like a suburb basically of Seoul, like basically like a Mississauga to Toronto kind of thing.
Is that right?
So yeah,
I got a lot of questions about this because I mean Vex was in Japan, but I mean he was like episode 2 because he was the one that inspired the shed. Actually, he had me on the hockey think tank, and that was the second or third one I'd done, and realizing I could make memories for my friends and get all my buddies around the world stories out there, and I thought I really liked doing that after retiring, getting to relive my career, and that's how I came up with this idea. But that was Vex, anyways, and that was a long time ago. But he talked about, I remember he was talking about some food in Japan. What's going on in South Korean food game? What are you
Uh,
eating?
it's different. It's you know what? I will say we're living in such a big city.
You got
You have
everything
all
you
the
need.
you've got everything, man. You've got it's so westernized. You know, it's basically what you I ate today was my day off. I went to Five Guys. I had a Five
Really?
Guys. Yeah. So like,
Thought
you
this was going to be
know,
way more of an
you
exciting talk.
you know, it's the Korean food is very spicy. It's very a lot of seafood, also a lot of beef and pork and stuff like that too. But a lot of
Rice? A lot of rice?
yeah, a ton of rice with every meal for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely a lot different than the Japanese food. And as a Westerner, I would say that Japanese food is definitely easier to eat.
Yeah.
It's not as spicy. It's more teriyakis and soy base and stuff like that instead of Korea being like it
Yeah.
just burns you up pretty good.
I understand. So I just curious question then when we're on this topic of living in South Korea was when I was, I think, like 23 and I get on the plane and fly to Germany and I'm going there, I'm gonna know a guy on the team, but like you're on that plane and like I remember landing and I'm looking down, I'm like, what am I getting into here?
Yeah, yeah.
How was the adjustment for you?
You know what? To be honest, like I was living in Russia before I came here,
Right.
and you know I remember landing here, and when you land here, it's a peninsula, so you're coming over water and stuff like that, and you see all the mountains and everything like that, and I was like, man, this is like beautiful,
Right.
and you land, you get in, and everything's very modern. Where in Russia,
It's the opposite.
there's time. Yeah, like depending on which city you're in and stuff like that, and I remember like being like, this is so nice, like in my building, there's Starbucks, there's, literally anything you need, grocery stores, gyms, whatever you want is in the building. And I remember just like being like, this is like,
You got everything I need.
being, yeah. And so it was very, the culture was more of a shock, I would say, than the actual like
Yeah.
living and food and stuff like that. Because if you wanted to eat Western food every day for every meal, you could
You
if you
could.
wanted to.
Right.
Yeah. So it was more the culture was what
Well,
took
it
time
is
to.
different. Yeah, it's the same as going to Germany and like they do things a little differently.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
in Germany now, or well, they always had these, and they were my favorite part. It was what brought back my love of hockey was going to Germany, and hockey was fun again. Was Tuesdays after hard practice, there'd be Kabina Fest, which means locker room party. You'd go
It's
out,
unreal.
you'd get bagged, you'd work out, but then it would rotate around the team. Two guys would do it at a time. They'd bring in two cases of beer and food for the squad. And then you'd
That's
eat in the
awesome.
room and hang out. And then just usually, the party wouldn't stop at the locker room. You'd end up hitting the town and be a full Tuesday. And I plan on bringing that to under 13 Kincardine Canucks. We're
I
going to
love
have a
it.
Cabina Fest. I'm turning 40 here this week, and I'm making a Cabina Fest happen in Canada. So I remember my 40th birthday will be I brought Cabina Fest to Canada, you know?
I love it, man. You got to keep things interesting and keep things loose and
And fun.
things like yeah, and fun. Exactly. That's the key, right? Like, and I had moments like that too where, it's crazy to say, but like, yeah, when I came over here, I had fun again. I was playing with great guys, like awesome teammates, and like, you know, it was yeah, it was awesome. It was something so much different than what I was used to, and it was the
And
change that
Russia would have been different that way, right? They can take it pretty seriously.
yeah, it was, and that was I was by the time I was done there, I mentally
You were
they
done
had
there.
pretty much they were pretty much broken me, and
Yeah.
you know, and and I don't want to like. There was it was a great place to play. I was lucky enough to play there the 1 year during the NHL lockout, which was awesome. You know, the facilities are amazing. It's just a different way of life. It's a different way of hockey. And what happens is I think a lot of North Americans and Europeans go there and they expect it to be what they think is the
Are
right
used
way.
to. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
but
and
it's
and
very much the same as going to like Germany, and you can get coaches different backgrounds, different ways of thinking, and they think more is always better. And like in the summer when we
yeah.
go there
Oh,
for a month and there's no ice, and it's like all we do is run around a
yeah.
track, and it's like, well, we're hockey players.
Oh man, we would fly like we'd go to these beautiful resorts. Like I remember we'd go to like Croatia or like, even Germany and stuff like that. We go to these places and we just work out the whole time. Like
Yeah.
we wouldn't even
Nope.
and it was
Yeah.
insane, insane. And
Insane.
and um
And they think that's your team bonding, right? And it's like, well, this isn't team bonding. Working out together is working out
you
together. You
you
get
eat,
through it.
sleep, and work out. Like that's all you do. And I will say, like, looking back on it all, like, met some amazing people there. I think they kind of get a little bit of a bad rap or whatever, but you know, I met some amazing people over there, and people that were so kind that helped me and made my life easier. You always hear the negative things, and I had a in general, I looking back on it now, a great experience. It was
Well, we
feel
could probably stick with the Russia thing. We may as well bounce around a bit. I don't, I write down notes, but um
yeah.
your first year, and this is after should we stick with like it in storyboard form or just go with it here? Because you go to
It's no, you
Vitiaz
tell.
Chekhov, and you know what?
Yeah,
I visited with a player that played there, but just before you, Darcy Verreau.
yeah, I've heard of him. I don't know him personally, but know of him. Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
he liked to muck it up. He liked to fight, and I think he was pretty darn good at it. But the story that this was early on, I think he was like episode 16 way back when. But he was when I went to Syracuse in the AHL. He was one of the older fellas that was kind, was nice, would invite me over for the days after practice. We'd have lunch together, me and him and Canzanello. And he was just a good dude. And then I saw what all he did after, and you see the brawls in Russia, and he's right in the middle of it all. But he told a
yeah.
story while he's playing for that team that the owner, before they got to the barn, went into the room and put numbers in everybody's stall of who they had to fight, and he got Yarmer Yager. He got number 68, and he had to go out there and jump Yarmer Yager.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, nothing surprises me there. Yeah, like I
He
know the
did
guy
it.
you're
He
talking
did it.
about. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. I'm not sure if that was like it was a couple years I think before I was there. But yeah, that it was there
Yeah.
was some things that especially as a goalie, it sucked, man. Like, you sit there and you knew, like, if you were down going in down by 2 goals, it was going to turn into a bloodbath. You know what
And
I
then all
mean?
of a
Like,
sudden you're penalty killing and just getting shots
exactly.
ripped at you.
You're 5-on-3 for, 5 minutes or whatever. So, there's a lot of, it was frustrating at times for sure. But
Well, definitely as a goalie, yeah. You're not, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Anyways, one guy that was on that team though, well, there's a few guys I wanted to bring up, but Artemi Panarin was on your team.
Yeah. Good dude.
Could you
Good dude,
tell
man.
how good he was gonna be back then?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Like, um, he he was different. Like and this guy too, amazing personality. Like
Yeah.
this guy, awesome dude. Like loves to have fun. Like smiling all the time. Like, a lot of swagger.
And I find like him, you like to be an NHL star, you need some swagger. And he kind of reminds me a lot of like Pasternak, right? Where you can tell they're having fun playing hockey, but they also can tell that they believe they can do things on the ice that other guys don't believe they can.
Yeah, like he would work. We'd stay on the ice after practice and do breakaways and shooting and stuff like that. And he would every day, man, he would eat it up. He'd be on the ice nonstop. And at the time you don't know how someone like that's going to translate
To the
over in
North
North
America.
America,
Yeah.
right? It's such a different game. It's a big cultural thing too, right? To leave and but I wasn't surprised at all, to
Yeah.
see how he's
Where he's
done because yeah, he's a special player. Yeah.
well, that same team, you also have a couple legends of names as Morasti and Jablonski.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
Darcy was done, they kept her rolling with the big boys. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah. Those guys. They were good. Well, I tell you what, I never felt tougher
Yeah,
on
yeah,
any
you could do
on any
anything. Eh?
team I ever played on, and it was yeah, it was interesting, man. It was a good experience. Both good guys. You know, um,
Well, they're legends of the sport. Their names will go down in history as some of the toughest dudes ever.
and they are, man. Those guys, they're man, they're tough.
Yeah. Well, they made
Yeah.
a living being tough, right?
I don't know if you've ever heard the story about the street fight they got in uh in Russia. Did you ever hear that story?
No, but I want to.
We were uh we were in a preseason tournament and
Those two guys got in a street fight in Russia.
oh yeah, it was wild. So I was with them and
Oh my
and
God. I love these stories. This is what it's all about.
and so we after the last game or whatever, we're like, okay, we're gonna go out. We fly out the next day. We're gonna go out and have some fun or whatever. And we end up going to this club, and we were in kind of a dumpy town, way out in eastern Russia, like pretty dumpy town. And this club we went to, it was connected to a wedding hall or whatever, and there was a wedding going on in the hall beside. And we pulled up there, and right away, like all the people from the wedding were outside smoking darts and all that kind of stuff, and they recognized Yablonsky and Morasti right away. Like they knew who they were right away, and I could tell, like,
They
it was
they
gonna.
wanted to try their hand at
Yeah,
them.
they were drunk, and they were just mouthing off or whatever, and I was on. There was a lot of them. There was like probably like 12, 13 of them, and I was kind of like, I don't want anything to do with this or whatever.
No,
And
no,
and
you're just the goalie.
yeah, and all of a sudden, one takes a swing at one of them, and I never seen they like went back to back to each other, and all I seen was just boom, boom, that noise where it's like that
Crack.
contact, and people just laying on the floor, and I
And where
like,
nobody's coming at you at this point?
oh, it's a funny story, man. I was like, I gotta get out of here, so I like tried to run away, and this guy chased me. And I was like, well, where am I going to run to? Like, finally, I realized I'm like, where am I going to go? Like, if I go away from these guys, I'm going to be. So I
Yeah.
like turned, faced him, and like swung at him, and I missed him. The guy was so drunk, like when he moved to get out of the punch, he
Yeah.
just fell down. So and I didn't even hit him.
Boom.
And yeah, so then I like ran back to be with those guys, and they had like dropped. There's literally, man, there's bodies laying all on the ground. And these people from the wedding like are like screaming, like the wives and girlfriends and
Yeah, they
stuff are
wouldn't
like
like that, but
screaming.
they asked for it.
Yeah, so then we're like, we got to get out of here. And Panarin was actually with us, and he was like the guy that like, because the police came and everything, and like,
And he's the one that could talk to them and be like, "Oh,
yeah,
listen,
and got us out of it all, and we got out of there. But I remember like the next day at the airport, I remember that like the coach already knew like what had happened. And
yeah,
like the next day at the airport, he's like, hey, he's like, you just can't be doing that stuff here. Like, you're gonna get shot or killed or something like that. And I was like, yeah, it wasn't me.
yeah, yeah." I didn't want to do it, but
I did, yeah, man. I didn't want anything to do with it. But yeah, those guys, man, they're good dudes, like good teammates.
yeah. So then we'll skip back to the other stuff later. So then after that year, that was your first year in Russia where you go to the team I know is like the tough team. You
Yeah.
switched to
Nif,
Neftechimik.
yeah, Niftahimik, Nizhnekamsk is what it's called.
Neftechimik. Oh, you say the heme. Okay. So you're there for 2 years, and I noticed a name. Nail Yakupov was on that
Yeah,
team the year he's like going first overall.
yeah, that was the lockout. So he's from that city. So the lockout was going on, and he got drafted that year. So he just played with us for the first half of the year until the lockout ended or whatever. And yeah, good guy, good kid. Obviously everything that happened or whatever, whatever. But he was
Well,
actually he
it
was
doesn't always shake out the way everybody
that's right.
sees it when they're 18, right?
Yeah, no, but good kid, man. Great personality.
Worked hard, eh? He always worked
Yeah,
hard on the ice, man.
worked hard and always was having fun. And yeah,
So in that during that time though, the Nadezhda Cup, I'm thinking that's like a Pokal in Germany. I don't know. But you played in
yeah,
6 games played and had a 0.95 goals against average and was named top goalie of the
yeah,
tournament. So is that like of the KHL? Like all the teams are
yeah.
in it?
Not all the teams. It was kind of like, um, so it was weird. Like at the end of the year, that year, all the teams that didn't make the playoffs. So I don't know how many there would have been, like maybe eight teams or something like that. They played in this tournament, and yeah, so it was kind of
They're having a hard time scoring on you by the looks of things if they had less than
yeah,
a goal against a game
yeah. That was a good. You know what it's like when you
when you get
have a
hot, you're hot.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
So living in Russia, because I haven't had that many guys on that play in the KHL, do you not like you have your apartment, but then the night before a game you have to live in whatever it's called, like a baza or something where it's
As
like
a,
a
yeah, just depends. Every team is different. That Niftahimic team, we had a Baza, and you know, yeah, you would go there the night before games, and
would your
then
wife come with you to Russia?
she did my first year when I played on that Vito
Vitiez?
team. Yeah, and then they didn't have a Baza, so we didn't have to go there. But with the Niftahimic, we did, and after morning skate or whatever, you'd go back to the Baza and
Hmm.
have eat and have your nap or whatever and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it was quite a thing, man. It was like ours there anyway. Like I think they're all a little bit different, but amazing facilities, man. Like
Oh yeah.
amazing. Like we had swimming pools, gyms, hot tubs, cold tubs, doctors' offices, and it's all uh, guarded. Like there's security to get in. There's like cement walls all around. It's like you're in prison,
Yeah.
and
But a nice one.
yeah, because so the one time my wife was visiting and I wanted to show her the Baza, and because I was like, I wanted to show her what it was like because it's kind
Yeah.
of different, kind of cool. Well, not really cool, but so I brought her there, and we got to the gate, like the security, and they're like, "Yeah, she can't come in. No, like no women are allowed to come in the Baza." And I was like, "All right, well, see you
Okay.
later."
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um yeah, you've lived an interesting hockey life, and it's interesting how all guys can go different paths, but Russia and South Korea are, not the normal paths for most
right,
guys.
yeah, and it's funny you say that because like I look back on it sometimes and like I see these guys that play in like these beautiful cities in Europe and stuff like that, and that's one thing that I've never, and I've got to visit Europe with our national team and stuff like that, like going to tournaments and stuff. And, that's one thing I do kind of wish I would have got to do is live in like some
Switzerland.
beautiful mountain town or something like that, and live like the Christmas festivals and all that kind of stuff. And like, but, you can't do it all. So
No, you can't.
it's,
And you just kind of get on the journey of the hockey career and see where it all shakes out, right?
right. Yeah,
And
exactly.
each season
Yeah.
you make a decision where you're signing, but you have found like a home and young.
Yeah, no, it's been the best decision I ever made. So,
So you're South Korean. You and Brock Radunsky are both South Korean. One's from
Yeah,
New Hamburg and one's from Clinton, Ontario.
yeah.
And I tell you, you don't look that South Korean.
No, I get that actually. You wouldn't believe it. I get that once in a while.
Is that right? Because
Yeah.
I knew your name before I met you just from like following that because I would be following Big Brock and then I see well the year I was trying to go to Asian League is you're there and then Jeepers a year later you're South Korean and playing in the World Championships.
Yeah. No, it was quite I kind of knew, going into it that
It was a
that was like
possibility.
yeah, and that was a big reason why I wanted to do it. I had in Russia when I was in Russia, I seen quite a few guys like that got like Kazakh passports, Belarus passports, and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
and I seen like what that could do for your career, and I was like,
German passports are a thing.
exactly, and you know what I'm talking about. Once you get the passport, you're not an
So
import anymore.
it's a whole different
And
thing.
yeah, and so that was kind of a big part of it, and it wasn't promised or guaranteed to me, but it was like, it's a legit option if everything works out or whatever, and so I was like, sure. So
I can hear your radio in the background again.
I know, man. It's my apartment complex. They like play these like announcements over the
Oh, really?
intercoms.
So
Yeah,
it's not like a radio station playing. They're just letting you know what's up and then it'll shut off.
yeah, yeah. They just
What if you're
they'll
taking a nap?
doesn't matter, man. And they're usually at night. They're usually at this time. It'll be saying something like they're shutting down an elevator tomorrow, or something's going to be closed, or something
Can
like
you
that.
speak the language a bit?
I can speak it a little bit, but I can understand what they're saying better than what I can speak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same as my German. I could always mainly understand what they're coming
right.
across with, but
Like
actually,
I can have like I can say what I want, but I can't have like a fluent conversation with you. And
can you say something in South Korean to me right now? Is that what it's called? South
yeah,
Korean? What the Korean?
yeah, Honggu, uh,
Hongu? That's the language?
Honggu. Yeah, that's what they call Koreans, Honggu.
So
Um,
what
so
like
like in Korean, I'd say like 안녕하세요, John and Matt Dalton입니다. 한국 이름은 하라상입니다. And
what did that mean? You're Matt Dalton?
yeah, and I'm Korean, and this is my Korean name, and
Really? That's
yeah,
cool.
right.
Ich kann sprechen ein bisschen Deutsch, aber ich vergessen viel, oder?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. I actually found Russian easier, and it's tough here because there's so much English. Like our coaches all speak English, my teammates all speak English. Everywhere I go in Seoul, everything's in English.
Right.
So you're not forced to
To
like
put in the effort. It's like the guys
right,
that go to the DEL compared to the second league. I find the guys that go to the DEL, hardly any of them learn the language because there's so many imports on a team. And then
right.
the Germans that are on the team are usually kind of somewhat the minority because there's so many imports that everything's in English. Where you go to the second league and there's 4 imports nowadays, it's like, well, the room can be mainly German and there's only 4 of you, so deal with it.
Yeah, no, so I could speak better Russian, especially when I left Russia than I could Korean, just because that whole thing, like you were forced to speak it, especially the cities I lived in, like it's different if you're living in Moscow or St. Petersburg or some of these big city, international cities, I guess.
Yeah.
But if you're living in like these smaller cities, like, you know, you better learn how to speak it because,
Well, it makes your life way better too, right? Outside of
oh,
the rink.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if you're the first. I don't think so, but you're an Olympian.
Yeah, yeah,
An Olympian from Clinton,
yeah,
Ontario, folks.
yeah.
Jeepers. How was that? Where did you go? Where was it?
It was in Korea. It was in which was cool to do it in like the host country and everything like that. It was pretty special. It was amazing, man. Like um not just like the actual Olympics, but like the build up to it. You know what I mean? Like
And the
you
festivities and the
yeah,
ceremonies and
yeah.
the
And we
vibe.
yeah, and the guys on the team, like we were going to all these tournaments and stuff like that and playing in Europe and going to all these things and the experiences that you make and you have building up to it. Like, and when you're sitting there talking to a guy or talking to Brock and you're like, hey, Brock, remember that night we were in Prague and da 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 da? And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
has nothing to do with the Olympics, but it's the
It
build up.
does. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Those opportunities happen because of the Olympics.
right. And, but the whole experience, it is a whirlwind. Like it happens fast. And honestly, like you're hanging on. Like there's so much going on. You're getting pulled all these different ways, and you're just trying to get through it. Um, it was a whirlwind, but I was lucky. My whole family was here. My parents were here. My brother, my sister. Um,
Well,
it
it's a
was
once in a lifetime deal, really,
for
usually.
sure, for sure. It was awesome, man, and like the whole vibe of like the Olympic Village and stuff like that. Like you know, it's unbelievable, man. Like it's the
I can imagine.
partying and stuff that actually goes on is insane. You got to think of some of these athletes that have like trained for
Trained
yeah,
for
man.
years to then go out and do the event, whether they won or
Yeah.
lost, the
And then they're
pressure's
done.
over. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
it's go
And
time.
I seen it, and it was pretty cool. Like I had my family and everything there, and I wasn't right in there, but like I got to see it and live it through some of the other guys on the team that were going
Yeah,
pretty hard, and yeah, man, it was wild. There were some people too, some events, that they're done on like day two.
right.
Like let's say you're like a half piper or something, snowboarder, and you're done on like day two. Well, they got like 12 days to
Of
just
to enjoy
go
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
go at her, man. And
and they
there's
should.
definitely some of that going on. It was
Well, it's very much like when a hockey season ends. Like you get so dialed in to every like I always find this is, maybe I'm wrong and maybe I do hockey wrong, but I think when you first show up, there should be some good nights out as a squad. You really bond, you get to know each other. Then you get into it a bit. Then the beer tents open up. You do that and get into it and become a team. Then there's the Christmas markets, gotta partake. That brings teams together. And then come the dog days of January, February, it's go time. You're getting ready for playoffs. And then
right.
once you get through playoffs and it's over and the stress is over, whether you won or you're lost, it's over. And then everybody can let their hair down together.
Exactly. And I think that's how I look at it too, but I think the new age is a little bit different than, and I see it, with the young guys that we have on our team and stuff like that. Like it's definitely, man, it's not the same as it was. It's definitely changed a lot, and maybe for the better, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know, but
Wow.
it's definitely not the same. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and
I know that being serious all the time and having nutritionist coaches and foam roll and all that stuff is good for you.
yeah, there's
But
a time and place for it. Yeah,
but I mean, I'm gonna raise this under 13 team to have fun, enjoy hockey, do it for each
that's right.
other. And,
That's right.
we'll tell them the nutrition stuff and what they need to do. But at the end of the day, if your team's tighter and closer than the other team and
100%.
they care more than the other team about each other,
Yeah.
and they play hockey the right way, you're going to be a tough team to beat.
100%, man. Like if guys are willing to play for each other and play for a coach, go through a wall for a coach and things like that. We've all been on those teams, right? Where you know you can't wait for the season to be over because you're like this
It's
team's
it's
these guys are
dysfunctional. It's
yeah, man. The
dysfunctional.
coach and a prick. His teammates are selfish, stuff like that. We've all been on those teams, and
And
we've
you
all
can't
been
and
on
when and then those are the teams that get put out right away and everybody kind of looks at each
100%.
other, well, we'll see you later. And then you never see each
Exactly.
other again because that's the way it was.
And then we've all been on teams that overachieve and things like that when you sit there and you look back you're like, oh man, we were a tight group, like we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
look back on those teams and that's
That's
usually
who
how it
had
goes.
success.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Actually, speaking we just had another tournament there this weekend, which I haven't talked about. I've been in the shed for like a week, but we went to the Tilsonburg area, and we played up in the A division against the bigger towns, and we went there and competed with everybody. We went undefeated in the round robin. Get to the semis against an A team that hasn't lost all season. Our captain gets suspended in the quarterfinals. We're just dominating this team. We're up 6-1, just smashing Guelph, not even close. And we're having the game of the year, and we're up 6-1 in the third. And a guy's hooking our captain. He goes to get the stick off of him, like lift the stick off of him. And he's so much bigger and stronger than the other kid. He lifts the stick off so easily up that the stick goes over his head and hits the back checker in the top of the head. And they gave him a 3-game suspension for an accident. He didn't even mean to do it. So they suspend our best player, our horse, our Eric Lindros at center, which I switched from D to forward. And he was dominating this tournament. And they suspend him for the semifinals. So we play without our top dog in the semis against the best A team. And we mucked her right up. We lost 2-1. We were down 2-0 in the third. We make it 2-1. We were right there. We pull our goalie at the end. Like, gave a hell of an effort, but this minor hockey thing's wild, man. The night before, the parents are up when the kids go to bed, and it turned. Well, one of the dads says, "Wally, can you do the worm?" And I thought he was joking. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can do the worm." And he's like, "Well, let's do it." And then we have this conference room. This dad goes out and does a flawless worm across the floor, and I was like, "Oh, I thought you were joking." So then I went and tried it. Didn't go well. And then everybody starts making fun of me and they're like, "Aren't you an athlete?" And then I don't know what was going on in Kincardine, Ontario back in the day when these people were in high school, because then one dad after another would get up and do the fucking worm right in front of me, and like I couldn't do it. And then and then Brady's mother gets up and says, "Brent, come on." And then the mother goes up and does the worm right across the floor. So I couldn't handle this. I'm not good at losing. So I got up there. I tried one more go. I got right up, and I don't know if it's low back strength or what, but my toes came down and smashed on the floor. I thought I broke my big toes trying to do the worm.
You must not have been hydrated enough. You guys
Well,
not
I was
doing hydrated,
hydrated,
or maybe you were too hydrated.
but no, like I don't think my body's fit for the worm. I was trying my best. I hadn't overconsumed. I was right in the pocket.
Yeah, there you go.
But apparently I can't do the worm, but every other parent on the team can. So
I
found
couldn't
out a
do
lot about losing that day. It was brutal.
it.
So anyways, the picture I found when the research team was getting creepy just warmed my heart. Ryan O'Reilly playing for Team Canada against South Korea, and he's right at the net mucking it up just like it's a summer day in Goderich.
Yeah, that was a cool experience.
What
We
is
were in the
that?
World Championships, actually in Denmark, and
Where in Denmark?
oh man,
Was it Herning?
yes, it was.
Yeah. Fun fact for you, because you're a goalie. I don't know what goes on in South Korea, but in Herning, Denmark, when they win, they throw Twix on the ice for the goalie now, Matt Caruth, because of
That's
me,
a good,
because of
that's a
me in the
good
shed.
deal.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we started it. Started it in Cardiff. They started throwing Twix on the ice for him after Hungary. Vex started it in Hungary. They played together in Hungary. They started throwing Twix on the ice for him in Hungary. Then he comes to Cardiff. I have him on, and I say, we can get that shit going in Cardiff. And we did. Twix on the ice after every win. And now we've moved it to Herning, Denmark.
so is he a big Twix guy, or what's
Loves
the?
Twix. Yeah, really
Does
likes
he
him.
really
Yeah.
Twix? Eh, like I
So
maybe a
what do you like?
Snickers.
Do you think any South Koreans are going to listen to us today in my shed?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
Are you going to sharing's caring, Matt? You're going to have to put it out there.
Yeah, I will actually. I will. I'll do that.
What's your favorite chocolate bar if you won a game, say in South Korea, and a fan that listened in South Korea was like, well, I want to let him know I listened, and it's a
Oh,
small world.
probably a Snickers, I'd say. But I don't
Do
even
they
think.
have
I think.
Snickers in South Korea? Do they have
Oh no, they got Snickers.
Snickers are
I don't know if
everywhere, eh?
someone would throw something on the ice, so I think they'd be kind of scared too. But
Really?
yeah, but you
But
never
if it
know.
was all for fun and it was a chocolate bar for the goalie, they wouldn't get in that much trouble, would
Yeah,
they?
yeah. There you go. Yeah, yeah,
Right? So, folks, if you're listening to us speak English today, not Hongu,
yeah. There you
right?
go. Yeah,
Right? If you want to listen to us in my shed and you want my heart to pop over here in Kincardine, chuck him a Snickers, right?
there you go. Yeah.
But only if you win. You got to earn it. Okay, Dalton?
That's a deal. That sounds good to me.
Those are the rules. So yeah, in Manchester, England, just because like you obviously don't know what I'm doing in here in my shed, but I sponsor the captain of the Manchester Storm, and he rips around with the Two Ales and Hockey Tails logo on his jersey. And then when they win, there's a chocolate storm. They throw chocolate all
Really,
over
eh?
the ice. All the fans have bought in, the team's bought in. They support me. They share all the stuff I'm doing.
Awesome, man.
And then all the different players come on and tell me what chocolate bar they want, and then fans throw them that chocolate bar. It is fun. Fun is
So
fun.
I've actually met some. I got some buddies over here that I've met just from being over here that own restaurants or pubs and bars and stuff like that. And a bunch of them are actually English. And the one guy's actually from Manchester. And one's
Really?
actually from Sheffield too. He's like, yeah, I used to go to these Sheffield games growing up or whatever. So yeah, it's
Small
a small
world,
world,
eh?
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, these
Those
guys,
are my honey holes. So yeah.
yeah,
Sheffield's getting back on the horse here this weekend. They're gonna play their first game since that incident over there, and can't wait for the boys to get back at it, doing what they love, right?
yeah. That's terrible, man.
Yeah.
That's awful news. So hopefully, yeah,
Hopefully
get back at
everybody
it.
is ready to get back at it and do it for. It's like I would say is Adam Johnson would want everybody back at the barn playing hockey. He
For
would
sure.
want his teammates. He would want the fans. He would want everybody going back out there for him. Like if
Yeah.
something happened to me, I wouldn't want the game to stop. You know,
No, no, for sure. It's yeah, and I think I don't know a ton about it, but I've been seeing lots of, stuff and awareness and stuff like that going on. And obviously it's a terrible, tragic thing, but hopefully something good comes out of it. Maybe
I think the net
enough
guards. I
guys
think
and
whether they make them mandatory or not, I think a lot of people will
right.
make that decision. I know if it was me, um, I always didn't really think they did that much when I was playing,
Right.
but I'd be putting one on.
Right. And I think you're starting to see it even in the NHL and stuff like that, guys voluntarily putting them on and stuff. So yeah, anyways.
Anyways, so playing for South Korea though, and you go to the World Championships and you're playing against the buddy you grew up with playing for Team Canada,
Yeah.
eh? That's weird.
It was weird, man. The whole thing, so going like even farther back, like when I first got my passport, the first couple times like I played for South Korea, it felt really weird. Like
Hmm.
it's hard to explain what that feeling's like, but like it's not like I was playing for Team Denmark or Team Hungary or something where like we look you
Similar.
could similar, right? Like you could say, oh, I see it. You stand out.
Yeah.
And
Big Brock
and
Radunski at 6'5" and blonde kind of stood out too.
exactly. So, and I was fairly new there when I got it and I didn't know everyone that well and I was so it was awkward, man, the first couple times. And then it kind of became natural and I was like, this is my home, this is where I'm playing and everything like that. And I became comfortable with it. But we played a tournament in Moscow, and Canada was in it. It was like before the Olympics, and it was the first time I played against Canada, and man, that was weird. That was
That
really
that,
weird.
that would be weird.
And I was glad that I got to do that once before, get it out of the way and everything like that. And then when I played them going forward, it was just kind of like another game, I guess. Obviously, it's not just another game, but
Well,
I
and it you also growing up in Ontario, small town Ontario, you'd also know when you're playing Canada, like how big of a deal it is over here that everybody's watching Team Canada play,
yeah. And then
and
you
you're
throw
you're
you
the one
playing
playing
against your
against them.
buddy. Yeah, and then you're playing against your buddy that you grew up with, right? So like, it was and actually his family was over there too, and like, I'm like at dinner with his family and stuff, and then, you know, our hotel, we're in the same hotel, so like, it's a long tournament, and so we're hanging out in the street, we're having drinks and stuff like that, like having a good time, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was a great time. We played, we played USA in that tournament too, and they were just loaded. Finland was loaded. You know, it was, yeah, it was,
You've played against some squads, eh?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah,
So poster pictures brought to you by Freeman Designs, my poster maker guy over in Cardiff, Wales, that has done now jeepers nearly 350 posters, and you can see them back there on the shed. You'll get up
yeah.
there with
That's
every.
pretty
Isn't that
cool.
cool?
Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
it's like that's my shed family. That's my hockey family. It's all a lot of guys I played with, and now I've met new guys too through it. And I tell you, your hockey family can be a pretty powerful thing, you know? Listen to in
That's awesome.
88 countries now.
That's awesome, man. That's
It's
pretty cool.
it
Yeah,
is
that is
cool
cool.
for
So
a
sitting in
bum
their
minor
garage and
leaguer that played in a second league in Germany and played middle like in nowhere, and then um yeah
in the shed and Kincard.
in the shed in Kincardine. It is weird, but it's as fun as it gets, and never felt more like myself than when I'm in my shed, you know.
Oh, that's awesome, man. No, I think it's sweet.
Poster pics. You're shaking hands in your South Korean jersey with well, a South Korean fella. Is he the boss?
He's the president, actually. Or he was the president.
Is he the guy that finagled your way into a passport?
No, like he's the actual like president of the country.
Oh,
So like,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, not the president of hockey, the president of the
No, no,
country.
he's like the president of the country. Yeah. Like,
Oh, that's a pretty big deal then.
yeah.
You even
So
know the president of South Korea? Holy moly,
he,
man. You're really doing it over there.
he was the. He's not the president now. He was the last president, but like, yeah, got to meet him and stuff like that, and
So he
yeah,
was
it
right
was
on
kind
the
of,
ice with you, eh?
yeah, he came, yeah, which was cool. Like it was, yeah, obviously some kind of felt like a bit of a photo op and all that kind of stuff, right? Like
Photo ops are
shaking
fun, yeah. Should have
shaking
got a
hands,
shed guy selfie like me and you in the locker room.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, cool to say that you know you got to do that anyway. So
Oh, for sure. Another one, you got the crossbows out with the fellas, eh? You into shooting crossbows?
yeah, those are actually compound bows, but yeah, I love it, man. I love shooting archery and stuff like that. Love the outdoors.
Yeah.
For me, you know,
You like fishing too, eh?
love it, man. Love just getting away from
Everything.
everything. Yeah, getting away from everything and just shutting it off. And
You know what I do? It's just probably weird, is I drive on dirt roads to get away.
I don't know. I do it all the time, looking for deer and
I,
turkeys and
I
stuff.
have a I have a hard time driving on pavement, man. People are going too fast, you know. If you take the same roads as everybody else, you see all the same shit.
Yeah, no,
I
in
almost
the
ran
summer.
into a blue heron the other day on the
Oh
way
yeah,
back. Yeah. So
massive.
this has never happened before. I was driving down a back road on the way back from the tournament, and I'm cruising along, and there all of a sudden was a blue heron like on the road, like standing there on the road, and I'm coming and it tries to fly and it missed my windshield by like a foot, man. And if I was thinking, I'm like, I've never seen a blue heron on the road like getting hit
They're
by a car.
massive, eh? They're
Massive.
so big. Yeah, they're so big.
It
Yeah,
was a wild experience.
yeah, yeah. I got into the archery thing, and like I'll go shoot like in some competitions and stuff in the summer
You like
and stuff.
competing, do you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a couple of those fishes were big. Is that out on Lake Huron?
Yeah, out of Grand Bend. I have a keep my boat in the marina there and try to get out as much as I can. You know, you live in Kincardine, probably know the lake can get pretty messy out there in the summer, so you gotta
Yeah. You got to pick your
wait for
spots when it's
yeah,
flat. Yeah.
exactly. So
Well,
yeah.
small world. Grand Bend's where we stayed when we became international silver stick champions last year in Forest,
Oh yeah,
Ontario. Yeah.
did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Right on right at the main light there. That one right on
The
the
new
board.
one. Yeah, the new one there.
It was a good spot, man. They opened up the lobby for us and let us run amok all night.
It's awesome. Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, let's see here. Growing up in Clinton, so did you play local minor hockey in Clinton?
I played in Seaforth. That's how my connection with like
With
the
Nezzy.
Nesbits and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just
We
cruised
lived in
through
the
there.
Yeah, we lived in the country actually, like right in between Seaforth and Clinton, so we got to like choose which one we went to, and my dad grew up in Seaforth, and that's just where we decided to play and everything like that. So yeah,
So
I played my minor hockey there.
then Huron Perth Lakers, the AAA squad, right? Because where I live, you can go Huron Perth or Highlanders. Would you have gone AAA to Huron Perth? Would that be going on yet?
It was going on. I actually never played for the Lakers. I played just minor hockey in Seaforth, and then I'd play like on these like summer hockey, spring hockey, I
Yeah,
guess, teams
yeah.
with those guys or
The
whatever.
AAA with all the yeah.
Yeah, so I
Same thing
got
my kid's been doing so far. We did that last year, and actually it was walking out of the Goderich Arena this summer. McFadden from town here, Garrett, who's in Slovakia. We're walking out, we're talking minor hockey and my coaching and all that. And he says to me, he says, you know, the best decision I ever made was not leaving my hometown until after under 13, until after Pee Wee. And he said,
yeah,
having those memories with my friends from home and all that, he said, there's time for AAA after. You still got a couple years of driving all
sure.
over Ontario and playing all over. He goes, and I said, well, hey, don't tell me that. Tell him that. So he
Yeah,
told my
no,
son that. So now he had kind of had his mindset up of what do you want to do next year. Now I think he's back on the fence.
yeah, no. It was different back then too. Like it wasn't like it is now. There was more
Now
small.
everybody thinks they got to leave by like,
Yeah,
young.
and yeah, so it was a little bit different then, but and we had good teams. Like we always had good teams. We used to actually,
That
you know,
matters.
we, yeah, and that was a big part of it, right? Like that Tyler Doig, that Luke Vick, all those guys played. Cal O'Reilly. We had good
That's a
teams.
squad then. Those guys are all in
So
one small town.
yeah, like there's other bunch of other guys that played junior B. Which is good hockey for
Oh yeah.
small town kids, right?
Well,
So
for your fun fact then, since you kind of sound like you were raised in a similar situation, was the Woolwich Elmira single A team. We had me, Dennis Weidman, Rodney Bauman, who was an OHL champion, Adam Hogg, Andrew Lackner, both NCAA. We had 5 guys go past junior B out of single A Elmira.
that's amazing. Yeah, man. Very
But
similar
yeah, who
kind of
you grow up with it and who you're competing with daily, it changes you, right?
100%. Yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was
So
good.
then you're when you jump into junior, it looks like you're thinking about playing for the London Nationals. You play one game and then head to the St. Mary's Lincolns and start running amok, eh?
Yeah, like I had signed with London, was playing there. I was living there, going to school there, and all my buddies from Seaforth. There was like 4 guys from Seaforth that I played minor hockey with that were playing in St. Mary's at the time, and St. Mary's was kind of a younger team, not as good. London, we were loaded, like we were good, and I wasn't going to get to play much, and so all of a sudden I did, and it was weird, man. Being that age and like finding out you've been traded and stuff like that, it was really weird.
That would be
And
weird.
being in school and stuff, and I remember I got done high school. I got done school that day, and the GM from St. Mary's just picked me up at school and drove me to St. Mary's to practice. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I play for these guys now. And it helped having all those guys that I grew up with from Seaforth on the team, and
Make you comfortable right away.
100%, and it was a blast, man. I got to play a lot, and I moved back home. I went to moved back in with my parents, and we used to carpool, man. We drive, all of us. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and we drive. My mom had this old van, and we drive this van to St. Mary's all the time. It was a blast. We had such a good time.
That's hockey. Yeah, that would be fun doing it all with your buddies and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it was good.
So, well, I guess this guy's, yeah, the research team saw this guy a couple times. And I always took a shine to him just because he was not that big of a right-handed shot scorer guy. College free agent Matt Reed was on
Oh
that
yeah,
junior B team. Then you went to Bemidji with him and like he made it out of, being a free agent college guy, right?
I played with him in Des Moines too. Actually,
Oh, of
we
all
were,
3 places.
yeah, man. Rito, awesome guy, hard worker. kind of a late bloomer, but he was always good, man. He was always good. He worked hard. He was always a good
Where's
player,
he
and
from?
he's from Ilderton, actually.
Because I find, and I mean, people may think I'm crazy with my Instagram stuff or whatever, but like if I see a kid on Port Elgin, say Chase Cosgrove, or Brady Snow and Shallow Lake, and my kid's playing against a kid that I'm like, well, who is this kid? And nobody knows about them around here. And it's like,
Right.
so all it takes is for me to take a photo of that kid and say, this kid is a confirmed player. Well, whether that means anything to them or not, I don't know. But it's like when I was growing up in small town Ontario, nobody knew about me. Nobody knew
Yeah,
about me till
no,
I got to Western Michigan University. And it's like,
yeah,
if I can help these kids get their names out there, I'm all for it. I mean, people helping people, that's hockey.
yeah, and that was kind of, yeah, same situation growing up in a small area. You almost have to have that chip on your shoulder, and you know because you're not getting the exposure the kids from Toronto are, or the kids from Kitchener or wherever, right? You're
Yeah.
London or these areas. You've got to, you got to earn it. You
Yeah.
gotta.
And like you did, that guy did. Like, I mean, he made it out of Bemidji, right? And
Yeah,
undrafted and had a similar upbringing than us. And you were darn close yourself. But anywho, you go from St. Mary's, you play there, what was it, 2 years?
yeah. Played 2 years in St. Mary's. Yep.
So then what was the decision to go to the Bosman Ice Dogs in
You know
the
what?
US?
I kind of had made a decision there that I was like, you know what? The reason I decided to go play NCAA was Nezzy, and I
Did you
didn't
already
really
have the
know it.
Bemidji State thing done while you're in St. Mary's, or were you going
No,
you're
no.
going there to try and get a scholarship?
Yeah, exactly. So Nezzy was at Ferris State, and I remember him telling me
Mucking
like,
it up against me.
yeah, and he's like, you got to. He's like, you should go play NCAA, and I was like, okay, sounds good or whatever. I didn't know anything about it, and so his parents actually a couple times took me down to watch him play games. So like, I'd go
Changes
down
everything,
and
doesn't it?
100%, man. Once I went there and saw that, I was like, oh, I don't, because I had a few opportunities to go play for different teams in the OHL and stuff like that. And once I went down there and watched them play, in these tournaments and stuff like that, I was like, man, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And so I asked him, I was like, Nezzy, what do I have to do? Like, he's like, well, first off, he's like, you should go try to play junior in the States because there's way more scholarships down there. So I was like, okay. And I got connected with this team, Bozeman team, and went out there, knew nothing about it. Went out there. Parents drove me out there. It was like 24 hours,
Where is
and
that?
Montana dropped me off, and it was awesome, man. Like we had an amazing team. It was awesome. Great
Goals
time.
against average 1.63 that season. 940 save percentage.
Yeah,
11 playoff games, 1.55 goals against, 937 save percentage. Did all right.
yeah, yeah. On to the next
But the
one.
thing is, like, what hit home for me though, especially as a coach, where I mean, people around here maybe don't know my background. I'm just this short, fat guy, waddling around town. But like when I'm coaching this under 13 team, there's so many different options of like memories we
Yeah.
could make. And it's like, so do I take them to Kalamazoo to watch a Western Michigan Broncos game and get taken care of? And it's like, you have to find the time to do that. You'd have to have the parents buy in. But like, if those kids saw an
What an experience.
NCAA game, it would be a
Oh,
life memory that they would be like, I've been to an OHL game. They ain't even flipping close to an NCAA
no,
game.
no. And one thing too, like I think people got to realize too is you've got to take some initiative in your career or whatever you want to call it. Like if I wouldn't have went to the States to play junior, I don't know if I get a scholarship. Like I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like for me, and no one, that was me contacting these teams trying to get out there. And I think there's a lot of kids that,
Wait for it to happen.
yeah, and just go get it. Like take some initiative in it. And what's the worst someone's gonna say to you? No.
But
Okay, well, go to
it
the
was the
next one.
same for me with this having an agent thing. So when I was younger and I thought agents did it all for you, it's like, well, actually, it's your relationships with coaches, GMs, players, and once you're in a league and people know you and you've made your name, it's when I decided to do things on my own at the end, and I was contacting teams on my own. It was it took all the horse shit. It was like I'm not sitting at home
Exactly.
waiting to find out what's going on. I know
Oh,
what's going
exactly.
on. I'm the one talking to them, and I know who's interested. I know who's not, and I know why they're not. I don't know why they are. And um then like when I made my deal to go to the UK and get the NBA deal, and it's like, well, I went out and did that. I didn't wait for my agent, and it was middle of summer. I had nothing, and until I got on the phone and started doing it, who knows what those guys are doing when they got 50 other dudes.
100%. I couldn't agree more, man. And I think it's important even at that younger age, man. Like,
There's
there's
too
like
many
you
of you
said,
still, right? The pool's still too big.
right. And there's lots of options out there, but you gotta go out there. Like how is some coach from some junior team in Texas know about this kid playing in Orangeville or
Yeah,
something like that, right?
yeah,
Like it's like you gotta get them out there, and if you're good enough, the cream rises to the top, like and
yeah.
you just need an opportunity. Like you got to get an opportunity and take
Yep.
advantage of it.
I agree. And for all the minor hockey folks, if your kids can play, I'm right here to help you on your way if you want. If you have any questions or you want me to get their name out there, you just let me know, right?
There you go. Yeah, no, exactly. I think that you know especially with what you're doing right now, coaching these kids, like you know your message or your lessons or whatever, they're invaluable, man. Like these parents, a lot of these parents, maybe played minor hockey or something like that, but you
Well, and
know,
then some of them can have kids that like you can see the potential. You can see
yeah,
like that they could have it. And it's like, well, let me help you guys. Like let me
yeah,
show you
especially
what,
the parents, right? Like,
yeah.
hey, this is what you should be doing, or this is what you should be doing, because it's easy for parents too. Like where we live, you can get sucked into so much BS and so many gimmicks and so much stuff, and if you don't know,
And a lot of times I'm not saying bad things about former players. I'm saying there's guys that want to stay in the game, and the hockey school thing or the training has become their business. But that's
exactly
exactly what it is their
the
business.
business.
And
It's,
they're trying to make money off of your kids. It's not them trying to get them to the next level. It's they're making money.
yeah, no, that's exactly it, and it's to us this seems easy to realize, right? But
Right. But when you're in
yeah,
it and they haven't been through it, and
that's right.
they see the next step or the next thing, and they think they got to go do it all, and it's like, well, you don't actually have to yet.
Yeah, it's 'cause, well, Johnny's doing it, so we got to do it, or
Yeah.
and But anyways,
Bosman, you ran amok, dominated. So then you head to the Des Moines Buccaneers. Des Moines, that's Iowa.
yeah, it's Iowa. Good city.
Yeah,
Good city.
good city.
Yeah,
How old are you there then?
I was 19.
In 8 playoff games that year, 156 goals against, 950 save percentage. You
That was
really
a good
turn her
one.
up for the playoffs, eh?
Yeah, I could see the summer coming close, so I'm like, it's almost done. It's almost
Yeah.
like you get a second life. You're like,
Well, isn't it weird, right? When you're a small town boy and you move away and you know the season's coming near an end and you're so close to getting to go home and see your friends, and
exactly.
it gets so exciting. Like
Yeah. And the weather's starting to get better. So you're
yeah.
like, you've been through winter and spring's starting to come. You're coming to the rink and, it's a little warmer and you're just like, well,
And you're
winter lives.
playing meaningful games that matter and you're trying to win trophies. And then you also are
Yeah.
like, well, when this is over, I get to go see all the boys.
Exactly, man. That's exactly how I feel about it. And yeah, maybe I had that attitude all year too. I should, but it's different when it's all year because it's such a long period, right? When you get to those playoffs, you're like, well, at most, what's going to be a month and a half, or something like that. So you're like,
Yeah.
giddy
Let's do
up.
this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
When did you get recruited by Bemidji, and why Bemidji?
It was actually when I was in Bozeman. so I had planned to go to school that year. And I was getting like, I was talking to, my dream was to go to Michigan State. And, I was getting recruited by North Dakota, like all these schools. And what happened was I didn't realize
Why
like
Michigan State?
just because in Seaforth there was a bit of a connection with Michigan State. Mike Watt went there, Rem Murray, all the Murray brothers, Ron Mason. There was kind of a
He's from
connection.
Seaforth, Ron Mason, like the
Yeah,
guy that was the coach when I was there?
yeah. So all
Really?
these guys are from that area, and
I didn't know that.
yeah, so that was kind of I. Yeah, I just grew up and
See,
wanted to
for
go
me,
there.
it fit for me to go to Western Michigan because I always like trying to beat the big budget teams, right? Like the Michigan
Yeah,
States. And I went on my recruiting trip. They played Michigan at Western Michigan, and you get the band playing, you get the student section, and then
sure.
they competed with one of the top teams in the country. And I'm like, oh, I'm in.
For sure. And yeah, so I was just kind of those were the schools I was talking to and everything. Then what happened was like I had to get through that clearinghouse thing, that NCAA thing.
Yeah,
And growing up in Clinton, Ontario, I didn't really care about school,
I understand.
and I never thought that like it was gonna mean anything, right? Like I
Yeah,
was just like,
yeah,
I'm a hockey player. That's what
yeah,
like
yeah.
and so I wrote my SATs and did all that stuff. I did fine on my SATs, but it was like my high school classes weren't good enough. So I couldn't get through the clearinghouse. So once that happened, like you know how it is, all those schools just stopped talking to me because they're like, especially for a goalie, you don't need a goalie every year. It's all based off of like if you
When a
got a
guy's
senior.
leaving, yeah.
That's right. So they all stopped talking to me, and I was like, well, I guess whatever. And there was another guy on my team that was committed to Bemidji, and later in the year, they asked him, they're like, why is your goalie like not committed anywhere yet? Like, what's going on with this guy? And he had explained to him what was going on, and they had asked if I would like meet with them and like go to dinner or something like that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, what do you got to lose? So met with them at dinner and all that kind of stuff, and they kind of said to me, send us all your school information. We want to look at everything and see what we can do. Like, all right. And they got back to me and they're like, listen, like we think we can get you eligible, but you're gonna have to commit to us, and
And
then
then
we'll
we'll do it.
right. So that's what happened, and they're like, the kicker is you're gonna have to play an extra year junior, um, and go to school while you're in junior and blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, well, sure, whatever.
Yeah, so you had
So
to do like a couple more classes, beef it up a
yeah,
bit, and then you're
yeah,
in. Well,
yeah,
and how worth it is that, right? Like
yeah, exactly. But it's crazy because if they didn't reach out, I wouldn't have known that. Like I wouldn't have known.
to get
I probably would have.
registered for a couple more
Yeah,
classes and get it
I, I
get
would
it
have
done.
just expected I couldn't do it, and it shows you too. Like all those other schools too. A lot of them they weren't really willing to put the work in to like look into it or anything like that. They as soon as they found out you couldn't get through clearinghouse, they were just like, "Oh, we got to move on,"
Move on.
and
Yeah,
not ask.
instead of dig in for a kid and help the guy out.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, that's how that kind of all panned out, and yeah.
I played against Bemidji. I went there. It was in the old barn though. You would have been in a new barn
Oh, they were in the new barn actually right when I left. So if I would have stayed,
because
they
that
would
was
have
a
been.
cool old barn. I almost felt like I was in like somewhere in Germany playing that.
Yeah, it was a barn, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But it was on campus and everything like that, and it was fine. Like now the new one, like they're so
that's
spoiled. Like
pretty up north. It was Minnesota, right?
yeah, very far up north actually, like
Yeah,
northern Minnesota. Yeah,
way
yeah.
up there. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I play against them, and one of my teammates, who's a good dude that went there, was Andrew Murray. Went to the show.
yeah, 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 yeah. I know the name. I don't know
He
him
would have been
personally.
before you. Yeah, you're only an
Yeah.
86, and I'm guessing that's why you wear number 86 in the net, eh?
Well, the funny story about that is like when I came here, they asked me for my number or whatever, and I said, "Oh, I'll take number one," and they're like, "Oh, it's taken," and I was like, "Okay, like I'll take 30." And I'm like, they're like, oh, it's taken. And
How
I was
many
like,
goalies do you
really?
have?
I'm like, all right, 86. Like, I'm like, no one's wearing that. And so it just kind of stuck or whatever. So,
Well, it'd be pretty neat. Like, do they retire jerseys in South Korea? I know everybody's got different
yeah,
cultures.
yeah, they do.
So
I think
86 will be going up there in the rafters in South Korea, eh?
I, I think I don't want to guarantee it, but I think at some point it probably will. Yeah. I think
Uh,
there's 4 or
I
5 right now.
did you read the intro? I did.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you're going up there, big guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, you go to Bemidji, probably a different experience than going to Western Michigan. So when I went to Western, was about the school stuff was I did my SAT and I did well. And then the deal was pretty well done. I'm like, so what do I need then to get into school? And they're like, well, pretty well just need to pass your classes. I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. No, Bemidji was like it wasn't Harvard by any means. It was
Western
you know,
Michigan ain't either.
yeah, it was the same thing. You got to keep your grades at a certain level or whatever. But like, I don't know what Western was like, but like the first couple years you're taking all these general classes anyway before you even get into like your
Yeah.
major or whatever, and they're all
But like
pretty
what
good.
I'm saying would be different was it's a school of 30,000 folks that love to party and
Oh yeah,
generally just pass their high school classes. And um,
yeah,
it's
I've
quite the
heard.
time at Western Michigan. I don't know what it's like at Bemidji, but Western can be a time.
uh, I've actually heard some great stories about Western that
they're,
yeah,
they're
but
all true.
yeah, Bemidji, it's obviously a smaller school, but you know, state school, same kind of thing. Like, it, yeah, same kind of thing. It's definitely you're pretty secluded up there. So I will say the kind of cool thing is like,
Your team's your
most,
team, right?
yeah, and most people stay there, right? Like people that go to school there, they're not going home on weekends and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, they're in it.
so it's kind of cool that way, and it's a nice campus right on the water, right on the lake, and it was a good time. I think if I did 4 years, by the fourth year, you'd probably be,
Be itching.
yeah. But
Well, you
yeah,
didn't. But your freshman year, and that's what's interesting about the goaltending life compared to players is you can sign with the team and be like, well, I'm going to earn my spot. You
yeah,
go to Bemidji and the starting goalie is Matt Climby, who had a hell of a career himself.
yeah. No, it's funny. Like, you know, going into it too. Like, I remember going into it thinking, like, when you're young like that. I remember like the college hockey had come out with like the top incoming freshmen for the year or whatever, and like they rate like the goalies, the forwards, the defense. And I remember I was like the number one incoming goalie recruit that year.
Jeepers.
And I remember thinking like, oh well, I'm gonna play. Like,
Yeah.
why am I not gonna play? I played everywhere else, right? And not really realizing either the jump from junior to college, and then
Big one. Biggest one I
yeah,
took.
and not even just the hockey, but the living. Living on your own, no billets, like all that kind of stuff. Um, and it was an eye opener, man. It was a very humbling experience. But in some ways it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Um, I went in with what we were talking about earlier about like, I never worked out. Like, why would I ever work out? And then you know what it's like when you get to college, and
You
and
work out.
they eat weights, and
Yeah,
and
you do.
and I remember being like so out of my element, and they were hard on me, and it was kind of. I remember after that freshman year, um, being like, I'm gonna put everything I can into it this summer, and then whatever happens, happens, and the one thing too was like, it wasn't like Climby was a good goalie, like it wasn't like they had some
Yeah.
puck bag,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
weren't
And
playing,
and that would piss you off even
right?
more
Like
if the guy couldn't
he was a
play.
good goalie, and I remember that summer, yeah, I came in and I was in good shape and everything like that, and just everything kind of fell into place that year, and we had a special year my sophomore year there.
Didn't you? Yeah, 31 games played, 921 save percentage, 219 goals against, and then you just straight up left school right away. But other guys that were on that squad, this guy's name just came up the last one I did. Jamie McQueen. He didn't have a
Oh, yeah.
big year in college that year, but boy, did he make a name for himself in Germany. He went from the second league right straight to Berlin, you
He's a
know?
good player, good school. He can shoot a puck.
Yeah, yeah.
That team actually, I don't know if we went to the Final Four that year, that my sophomore year, which
Bemidji
was
did.
yeah, we went to the Final Four, and that's why
That's how it
you know I
happens, though. Winning takes people places. Going to the Final
exactly
Four gets you guys out there in front of everybody. And
exactly
Western Michigan, that wasn't happening for me. We were losing, and I could score all the goals and points I want, but people weren't coming to watch because we weren't doing well. You know?
and it's funny you say that, man, because right after we won those games to go to the Final Four, I remember leaving the rink and we played the regional tournament in Grand Rapids, Michigan,
Yep.
and we played Notre Dame first, and then we played Cornell second, and we beat them both. And then leaving the rink after, I remember like going out and like trying to meet my family and stuff like that. And this guy approached me, and he was like, "Hey, do you have an agent or whatever?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh, you should get one." And he like gave me his business card. I was like, "Well, why? Like, why do I need an agent?" He's like, "Well," he's like, "You're gonna get an NHL contract." And I was like, "What the heck?" Like, I didn't even know.
You're just
So
playing.
that's yeah, man. That's how quick it can happen. Like, it's just you
Well,
play at in front of the right people at the right time, and
no, it's true though, and then it was the weirdest part for me was like there was a year, my third year, junior year, I was leading NCAA in scoring like the end of November, and I had no agent, never even been asked
yeah,
from an agent to be my agent. And then all of a sudden you get like a whole whack of them, and you're like, well, what do I do with this? And
exactly,
yeah, and then all of a sudden you're into it, and it's cool when small town Ontario boys all of a sudden that happens for them, right? Because the Toronto kids probably have losers asking them to be their agent already, and it's like, well, you don't need one, you don't need one at all. And when it's time to have one, it's time to have one, I guess.
exactly. And I look back at the whole thing and like when I left school, I wasn't ready to leave school. Like maturity wise, just everything. Like I had only played 1 year of college, right? And
You really did her though.
yeah, I look back on it now, and but with that being said, you go back, you
If the
don't have as
next
good,
year is not the same, everything's
right?
different, right?
Exactly, and so it is what it is. But I realized that because as I got older, and when I was in Russia and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, now I kind of I wish I would have had that opportunity again then, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
everyone can say these
Well, and you
things,
have
but
to be ready when you make the jump to pro. I know I wasn't ready, and that was after four
exactly,
years. I don't think I knew what it was all about and what was all out there. And
100%. These kids nowadays, these young kids nowadays, I feel they're so much more groomed for it at a young age. Like they're so much more ready for it than our generation was coming through it.
yeah. So then how did it end up being the Bruins that you signed with?
You know what?
Because I'm just looking when I look at the NHL team, and there's Tim Thomas and Tuukka
Yeah,
Rask.
exactly. Like it was terrible, terrible. But at the time, like this guy that I had signed with as an agent is like, you know, this is the team you should sign with. And like, there was other options. Like I remember Detroit was an option, Arizona was an option, Washington was an option, and like, but at the time, you don't know anything, and you're just trusting this
You're
guy.
trusting this guy. And it was
So
the
you're
same for me with signing with Syracuse that year. With Columbus was I knew they didn't really want me, but they'd guaranteed it. And he says, well, they've been good to you. You should stick with them. And I'm like, but there's other options. And these guys are saying they don't really want me. And I went with his decision. And look, ever since I've looked back, I'm like, well, that didn't make any sense. Why wouldn't I be a man and tell that guy that's the wrong decision?
Yeah, because you're at that, you don't know. You're so naive, right? And I remember going to my first training camp, and I remember watching Tuukka Rask, and I remember like being like, holy shit. And I remember I'm like, and then at the other end was the guy that just won the Vesna. And I'm like, this guy's better than the guy that just won the Vesna. The guy, and I was
That's
like,
at the other end. Yeah,
yes.
I'm
I
in
was
one.
like, oh, yeah, yeah. I was like, maybe can we change? Can I call Detroit back?
No, but yeah. I was curious because my junior year was when I had options of somewhat to leave, and my agent said I wouldn't be going back, and then the lockout happened, and then I did go back, and then our team finished in 11th place in the CCHA. And like
Exactly, man.
I had a good year, but it's like, well, your team's fucking brutal. So where do you think you're going?
And as a goalie too, it's so much more volatile because it's like
If you
only
get on
one
a
guy
bad
plays.
team, you can only stop so many pucks.
Or if you have a bad month, all of a sudden they're playing the other guy, and it's like you
Yeah.
might not get that net back, right? And
Yeah,
and it's like it's such a weird dynamic, as a goalie.
it
It's
is totally
completely,
different.
yeah,
Yeah, because only one guy gets to play each game.
right, yeah,
So then you do leave. It didn't look you didn't leave like at the end of sophomore year and play. You waited till the next season. So then you're going straight into I'm an NHL contract, you're going to NHL training camp and you're into it.
yeah. And that's an eye opener, man. Like especially those. I'm sure Vex could probably comment on that
Oh, he was with the
organization,
Bruins too, right? Yeah.
right? That organization too, and that was their heyday. Like, they were loaded. And you're walking into that locker room and there's Chara, Lucic, Bergeron, Krejci, Mark Recchi, like all these guys. And it's an
Oh yeah.
intimidating thing. And it's crazy because as soon as you have that feeling, you're done. You can't go into it being
You have
intimidated.
to mentally think you're supposed to be there and they want you
That's right.
there. And when I
That's right.
went there, I was so in awe. I remember
That's right.
I go to Columbus, I'm Sergei Fedorov's there and Frederick Modine, and I'd watch Modine with the Leafs, and I'm like, so he goes to the movies just like us? And I was like, what?
Yeah. And I think maybe for us being from small towns and stuff like that and being not really as exposed to it, I don't know, but I felt like, and that's when I go back to talking about when I just wasn't mature enough at that age to handle it, and and it was an eye opener, man. I
It was the
remember like,
same for me. I wasn't ready. I didn't believe in myself enough.
yeah,
I didn't go out there like watch what I can do. It was more like I'm watching what those guys can do.
and it's funny because you do see the young guys. Like I remember Brad Marchand. He was a great player, obviously, but like he had that attitude, that swagger.
Yeah.
People call him cocky. Well, he was confident. Was he a little bit cocky? Maybe, but it
But
worked
that's
out
what
for him.
those guys need, right? Like that's
That's
what
right.
those guys that do it. They have that swagger and they do believe deep down that they're better than you. And then they are better than you because they believe it. And I was
Exactly.
and then it's like I went to the second league in Germany. I didn't know what the league was like. I was just like, well, I see these guys in the first league. There's no way I can't do this. And that was my mindset going there. It was like, I can do this. I'm good in the
Yeah.
second league in Germany. But you go to those other places and you see guys that you've been playing against or seen on TV, and
Right.
I had a hard time dealing.
Yeah. And it's funny because I look back and like the times that I didn't give a shit, and I was just like,
Just
that's
play
the time you played your best hockey. You know
yeah
what I mean? Like
when you're
it's
not thinking about all the other noise.
that's right. That's right. Exactly, man. And it's funny. Like as you get older, you learn those things, right? But it
So
is.
that first year though, that rookie year, it had you on the roster for Boston, and when I got creepy, it looked like you were in the lineup for a game against the Leafs.
Yeah, yeah, and then I was up a bit during the year, and then played some exhibition games and stuff like that. So that was cool. It was,
That would be
it
cool.
was, yeah, it was awesome. I remember, yeah, I remember getting called up and playing. They played Toronto that night, and going out for warm up. And I remember Don Cherry. I was sitting on the bench, and Don Cherry came out and dropped the puck. So he came through the tunnel right where you sit and walked by, and he was talking to me and stuff like that, like little things like that were kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
Especially being against the Leafs too, right? But
Well, yeah, growing up in Ontario playing the Leafs that's
yeah,
would have been a day for you.
yeah, yeah, it was good.
So that first year, you 46 games with Reading in the Coast and 16 playoff games, 6 in the AHL, but 16 playoff games. You guys must have gone on a bit of a run then, eh?
Yeah, we had a good team. We lost in the conference finals, game 7.
Mm,
Yeah, we had a good team, and go back to like just great dudes. Like
that's how you win.
so much fun, man. So much. That was one of the funnest things. We were in a shitty city like Reading, like terrible city, but
I
man,
bet
we had
that.
fun. Just because we had great dudes, and we had a coach that wasn't like he had just got done playing, wasn't like the biggest X's and O's guys, but was an awesome dude, and guys wanted to play for him.
Yep.
And
Yep.
and we were good. And we should have won. We lost in game 7. We should have won. And who knows what would have happened in the finals? But the team we lost to ended up winning it, Cincinnati. But
No, I like, yeah, hits home for me too. In my only year in the Coast, we went to the finals and lost in the finals to Idaho and Derek Nesbitt, that punk.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then, and the other thing was in the Coast versus the AHL. I know you did a bit of both. I found the East Coast teams to be more teams. They were
100. Oh
better,
man,
better dudes, better guys that were into it to be hockey guys and play hockey for the love, and they were teammates. They were happy when guys got called up. They supported each other.
I have a
The AHL was the opposite of that.
and maybe that's because I played on bad AHL teams. Maybe that's why it was like that. I don't know, but I totally agree with everything you're saying on that. Like I remember one time being in Providence. It After practice in the locker room, they come in, they tell a guy he's getting called up. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, congrats, man, congrats, man." The guy leaves, and
All the bad shit. Yeah, then
everyone's
they
like,
start.
"How did he get called up? Like, are you kidding me?" I couldn't believe it. I
I
could
I
not believe it.
I agree.
And
They're not
and
actually genuinely happy for the guy at all.
no, and then I go down to Reading, and the guys were just awesome dudes, man,
Hmm.
playing because they love the game, playing, and
Yep.
yeah, I totally agree with all that.
That was my experience. It was only 1 year, but then going to Germany and you're on a team for a year, and this is your team, and you figure it out together. And there's not the in and out, the up and down. This
Yeah.
is your team. Let's figure it out. It was like I was back in Elmira, Ontario.
No, man, I hear you, man. I couldn't agree more with all that stuff.
Well, so anyways, then after your 2 years, you do decide to head to Russia. We did talk about Russia, but how did you make that decision that after 2 years you're heading to Russia?
Part of it was like looking
Money,
at
money,
the
money.
Boston organization. Yeah, that was part of it too. Yeah, money.
Money's a thing.
Money is real.
Yeah,
But
I heard
yeah,
about
like
it.
yeah, that organization, like we're going back to, like the writings on the wall, pretty clear.
Where,
You know,
yeah, especially as a goaltender. There's only one
yeah,
guy gets to play.
and in Providence, we had this skills coach that was a Russian, and I used to sit out there and practice and just, I'd sit out there with the guys for like 45 minutes after practice and just they'd be just hammering pucks at me.
Oh yeah.
And he respected it, like that I'd stay out there all the time, and he liked me. So I got to know this guy pretty good, and yeah, going to Russia. And that year I was in Providence, the one of the older goalies that was there, he had played in Russia before and came back, and he had told me like about the money and all this kind of stuff. So as soon as this guy told me, I was like, yeah, sure, man, whatever.
Yeah,
I'll
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 do
I'll go
it.
do it. I was young. I'm like, I'll
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
And so sure as shit, after the season, he called me. He's like, hey, this team will sign you. And without that guy, man, I probably wouldn't have got over there.
Right. No, and it takes
And
someone.
my
It takes
my
knowing someone.
and my GM that year was Alexei Zhamnov was our GM that year.
In Russia,
Yeah, on the first team I played on. Yeah,
he was a player.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, then you have your 3 years there, and then well, then you head to South Korea and you've really set up shop, eh?
yeah. It's home, man. Like it definitely
You're
it's
comfortable now, right? And you know
yeah.
people around town and you know your
You know,
favorite
even
restaurants and where you want to go and
100%, and even like with the organization, like things like it's not like a player management relationship now. It's the
your family.
respect. Yeah, and the respect that's given both ways, it's awesome, and especially in the hockey world, you know,
It's
what
a
it's
bit
like.
rare.
Exactly. You play for so long, and you get treated and shipped around, and it's hard to find loyalty. It's hard to find respect and things like that. And when you actually get it, it's awesome, man. It makes you want to continue to play,
It makes you want
and
and it makes you want to dig down a little deeper for them and help win a
exactly.
little bit more.
Exactly. That's exactly it, man. It's you treat people the right way, and most of the time, they're gonna give it right back. So,
Well, and it's
um,
like when I went to Cardiff and I had been through the ringer a bit, like I thought I'd played well wherever I went, and maybe my body doesn't look like the prototypical hockey player, but
yeah,
I thought well everywhere, and then you don't have loyalty some places, and you don't get treated that well some places, and then I get to Cardiff, Wales, and like the day you show up you got food in your fridge waiting for you. There's a jersey set out on the crib for my son with 18 Walton. And it's like, oh, like you guys get it. So I'm like, so you guys like care. And I'm like, okay, I
yeah.
care too then. you know?
Exactly, man. It's such a good feeling. Like you know, and the coaches here have been amazing. My teammates have been amazing. Like it is, when you play with people that long, like I've had teammates that I've seen, come out of university and now they're married and have kids, and stuff like that.
I do
So
know.
yeah, it's more than just hockey, I guess. Is
It's become your hockey family or family, but like it is cool. And it's like that's what I love about doing this was the last guy I had on was the guy I played with when he was a young punk in Germany. And then, didn't even realize all this was happening. I knew they were having good careers, but like 6 or 7 of my puppies in Germany that I played with when they were like young are all legends now in different towns and are going to get their jerseys raised in different towns. And I see them married with kids now. And it's
yeah.
like, holy shit, look at you guys go.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. I feel very fortunate to, still be able to do it at this age for sure. So
No doubt. And other small world for you is my favorite national team really is Team Great Britain because all my buddies are on it, and
yeah,
they have a team of good dudes that do anything for each other. They have the best culture of hockey I've seen out there. You were just in Nottingham playing them, were you not?
yeah, we were first time in GB, so that was kind of cool. Going there and yeah, it was good, man. They ran a great tournament. It was good. They had a good team. I think they beat us 4-0 or 3-0, something like that. We played them first game actually of the tourney, and the place was rocking, man. Like it was a
Oh yeah,
madhouse.
that's awesome. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of my boys on that team and a lot of shed guys. And they got great dudes that are in it for the right reasons and love hockey and the fans too. Big supporter of Great Britain hockey. But it's neat when I know a guy that's playing against them for South.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. And that was the first time I've ever played against them actually, um, just the way that
Well,
we
it's got to
haven't.
be a bit different now, right? Because I don't think we've talked about this though. So when you get over there, you got Big Brock and then Vex, but then another my Daytona Beach roommate for Dayton Bombers with Brad Farniuk. He was over there for a while after Dayton too. But
Yeah,
there used to be a lot more imports over there. There used to be more like they used to be doing what they did for you. And I look at your roster now, man, you might be
yeah,
sticking out like a sore thumb nowadays.
yeah. The whole COVID situation over here really messed
Jam.
things up pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah. teams not wanting to spend as much money and stuff like that, and bring the imports in and stuff. And it's slowly coming back. But
Would
but
it not
back
take
then,
just one team to be like, okay, let's bring in 4 imports and beat the
yeah,
shit out of everybody, and then the next team's gonna be like, okay, we're doing that too.
100%, 100%. That's what I do. But being in Asia and Asian culture, that's not something that a team would want to do. You know what I mean? Like it would kind of be like they'd have to all agree on it.
To do it.
Um, yeah, because like just the whole Asian culture thing, like it would be very frowned upon if like um, a team did that. I guess as weird as that sounds,
Yeah.
but it's a different culture, man, and it's got a lot of good
So
things about it.
that's what I
But
mean. It sounds like they're trying to keep it fair. They're trying to like, because
yeah,
they're
just
most leagues, if they see a leg up, they're gonna take that. If they see an inch, they're taking it.
100%. And it used to be like that. Like it used to be like we have all these guys with passports, and then we still go get imports, right? So we were good, man, and um, you know, I think that was frowned upon a little bit, but we were taking every little inch we could,
And
and
that's how you win. And you guys won
yeah,
a lot.
yeah,
Um, well, I guess last question, because we never even got to this. I guess we're gonna have to join the real world here. People have to work for a living around here.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, what are the barns like in that league?
Um,
Isn't the place I was talking to? I'm pretty sure they played out of a casino.
ooh,
Is there a
um,
hang
not
long
not
one?
that I know of.
Oh, then maybe
Not
I'm
at a
making shit up.
casino.
Maybe I was way further away
Maybe
from
in
the game.
China. Maybe in China they had one out of a casino. They might have.
Uh,
Um, but they're how do I explain them? They're not like they're like concrete, just big concrete. There's not a
building.
lot of character to them, I guess you could say. Like,
They're not old
um,
barns that have character.
yeah, exactly. They're just very generic
Ice rinks.
concrete. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Do you get fans?
Yes and no, depending who you play. When we played Korea teams. Actually, I'd say our team, like we sell out all the time. But if you're going to Japan, playing some teams in Japan, they might not draw as well playing us. But if they played a Japan team, they would draw well. There was Russian teams in the league before
Yeah,
this whole war thing went on.
right.
Um, yeah, uh, and they would obviously draw well and stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
just
because that
depends
league
on
was expanding somewhat and getting out
it was
there.
gonna it was gonna be there was gonna be I think three teams from Russia, um, 3 or 4 teams from Russia, and then um, two in China, five in Japan, three in Korea, and then COVID kind of just smacked everyone around and
Yeah,
and
it sure did. Um, what are road trips like for you guys? You guys go on like roadies?
we'll go, yeah, like we fly everywhere obviously, and then we'll play 2 or 4 games at a time on the road and then come back.
Right.
So it's
Um,
it's pretty good. Like we're not flying private, we're flying commercial, but
yeah. Still fun
it's
though, getting the boys in the airport and all that.
yeah, like it's better than riding the bus for 12 hours or like like
Yeah, no doubt. And you may as well go play 2 or 4 games and then come back and then just do a road trip.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's good, man. It's
Well,
you hear
it
stories of
seems
these
like
guys
you've
saying,
found your home in the hockey world. Like like, and one guy told me when I got to Germany, he said, you got to find a home. You got to find a place where like there's loyalty, where they respect you, you respect them, and that's your spot. And you need the fans to buy into you and want you back. And like he was right. And I had that for a while, and then I had to find a new one, and I didn't find it in Cardiff till the end of my career when it was over. But you got to find that home. You got to find that
yeah,
base in pro hockey, because if you don't have that, you see the resumes. The research team gets hot for me, and like the guys that bounce around for a few years,
oh
you kind of just you're like it gets a bit old.
Well, and then you don't get the benefit of the doubt. Like you have one bad year, you're done. And it's like instead of like, you're in somewhere where they're loyal to you, and it's like, well, they treat like if you have a bad year, it's whatever. They're still gonna take care of you
And they
and
still
what
know who you are and that, it's a
exactly,
one-off.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of that is the Asian culture itself. That's just kind of how they are. If you get into their circle and you gain their respect and stuff like that, it's a pretty good place to be. So
Well, that's cool. And it's been great getting to know you better after than our one skate. I know, you know, I get chatting a lot, but we went out
yeah,
and
yeah,
mucked
no,
it up there for an hour and a bit, and then you get chatting about hockey and life. And it is interesting all the different paths this sport can take you, right? It's pretty neat.
it is, man. It's a small world, and like I said, like when you've been doing it for a while, like you and I have, like you always know if you don't know the exact person, you're one person away from knowing them, right? Like it's
Oh
such a
yeah,
small world.
it
Yeah,
is.
so
And the good dudes need to stay together in this. And
I
that's the
hear
way
you
I,
there.
yeah.
I
Well, I better get to the real world, folks. And this has been another episode of Two Ales and Hockey Tales with Dalton Wally.